Hello and welcome to lecture 4 Blender Recap. In this video we'll take a look at textures and how we can work with that in Blender. So let's get right into it. In order to showcase this, I think square might not be a good example. So let's press the X key and delete. Shift A and pick a UV sphere. And then we'll just grab it with the G key and use the X axis and move it. Then Shift A again, mesh, and a UV icosphere. And before we get deep into it, you can press N, the key N, and here, you can have the transform tool, view. But one thing I'd like to showcase is screencast keys. So it's something I recently downloaded, and it's something available. So now you can see. Uh, Now you can see my mouse movements and my keystrokes, and this is something you can download as well, and you would have definitely seen in Blender tutorials. So how to do that is go to Edit, Preferences, and Get Extensions. So this is something you need to have Blender 4.2 or later. So I had an older version of Blender which does not have this Get Extensions. In here you can just search up Screencast Keys, and it's just a quick install. And then but the key thing is it's not going to be always on. As you can see, I had enabled it because I just started a Blender again. So you just press the N key, or you can press that little tab there, and then in here, come in here and enable it, and you can adjust like how big it looks. So like I made the mouse size bigger, and you can mess around with that, like change the color and like font size. Like I think it'd be helpful if I make that bigger for you guys. So there we go. See, that looks pretty legible. So right now let's get back into our texture. So before we, you know, wrap into the texture, let's discuss about these two meshes. So we have the icosphere and UV sphere. The icosphere has less geometry and has triangles, and every triangle is the same size and it's easier to work with because it's just like triangle is simpler. Whereas this, the UV sphere, it looks like a globe and has like the latitude and longitude lines. Uh, and the faces get smaller towards the pole. Let's focus on this. Let's move this real quick. Now, look at that. So the faces, if you can see, the faces over here, look at that, and the faces towards the pole, it gets smaller. But it's easier to wrap a texture on. So we're gonna work with this instead of the icosphere. And what we're gonna look at is the UV editing feature. And in here, select this and go into edit mode. If it wants to load. There we go. Hold up, let's. My laptop is running a little bit slow here. But or we can just do this. All right, there we go. See, so I didn't select all of them, but you can see that how it brings it over here, and then in here you can select. Since we're in edit mode, you can select like vertices or Command Z, lines, stretch it out. Let's see, where is this actually happening? I guess we're not able to clearly see it because we haven't added texture, but I just want to showcase that we will add a texture here in a second. Now you can select faces and this, you can select the whole thing and like move it around. So in order to select all of it, let's just make this window slightly smaller. And in a previous one, I've showcased that you press this option. Not this, hold up. This one right here, the X-ray mode. So in this, now we'll select everything even behind like that. Now everything is selected and you can see it's selected all of it. So now let's go add a texture. And now we're in the Canvas homepage. From here we go to the GitHub repository, go to today, and go to click on checker pattern. We'll save this image to our downloads folder. And now go back to Blender. So now we can go to material, add new material. It's taking a second here. Let's see. My laptop is really struggling. Okay, there we go. Loads in. So last time we saw principal BSDF, but now we want to use, let's see. No, not there. Base color. You want to press on this and go in here and we want to add an image texture. And let's go back to object mode real quick. And now in here we go to new would be creating our own image, but we just want to open whatever we just downloaded. So go to downloads. Try to find our latest. Sometimes it's a little funky, so if you just remember the name, this one just starts with 7FR, so click on that. Open image, and you're like, is your computer slow or it hasn't loaded? Well, this is something that you're gonna have to be mindful about, and this is because the image needs to be saved in the same folder as the blend file. Currently, we haven't saved this blend file. So when you work on your project for the class, what you would want to do is first save this to a folder, and you want to move the image to that same folder and not have it used from the downloads like we just did. And this is because if you're opening up your project and you're like, oh, why is the texture that I like you're opening, let's just say you send your project to another computer and you open it up and you're like, why is my texture not appearing and everything looks like magenta, pink, or whatever? That's because you don't have the texture in the same folder. So be mindful that when you send it, that it's also in it and it's like a zip file. So right now, this is just a showcase, so we're not too worried about that. So we can just go to the different, change the viewport shading, and there we go. Now our texture is there and it's wrapped. Let's go to edit mode, and there we go. Now it shows how the individual vertices are like unwrapped on the image. And now what we want to do is go to the option here called UV and then unwrap it. And we can use Smart UV project and just unwrap it. There we go. And here you can see where like each part of the sphere is like on the our image texture here. And in order, so now you have like kind of like more freedom to work with where you want it to show. And again, it goes back to, so this one you can move the whole thing, grab, look at that, we can see the changes. That's where it's changing it. um, you can move individual vertices like I said before. move this vertice. Let's see where this change is happening. Oh, one way to find where your selected vertice on this side on your UV editing is on actually over here. You should be able to, one, you can just move it around and see that change, or you can see like the selected vertices here, it's highlighted in white. That's weird that the screencast keys are not showing up while I'm in like a UV editing mode. Okay, so yeah, look at that. You can see the change. Command Z back. Now we'll select a line. You can see that change. And now we can do faces. You can see that change as well. And finally move the whole thing like I said previously. So we'll move it over here. And then we can scale it. So if we scale it, then everything gets smaller like that. And if you make it smaller, it's like zooms in. And let's just say I make it like really big. And you might wonder like, oh, it went off like the grid. And when that happens, it like wraps around it. So, yep, that's what happens. So now let's go look at some of the other like unwrap options. So we have cube projection. So now everything is like, you'll see there's still like the 6 sides to it. And this is how it like wraps it like cube. Now go try cylinder projection. You can look at that. And then we have sphere projection to like of the sphere we have, as you can see. So that should give you a general idea of how, if you were to like um import an image and then you want to wrap it around a certain object, what are the features available, like how you can work with the vertices by unwrapping it, with the faces, the lines, like how we can do in edit mode, but now with the wrapping functionality that's available to us. And one more thing I would like to showcase is when we go to unwrap and smart UV project, we can do this thing called island margin, which now it's like it adds space between the uh main like individual pieces of where it's on the image. So now that we showcased that, we're gonna make a spaceship real quick and then show how that kind of looks when you go to UV editing. So let's do Control N. Yes, Control N is the shortcut in order to start a new project. Alright, so let's make a spaceship. It's definitely not gonna look as good as Dr. Riggs, but the one he created looks really cool. But let's try our best. The main idea is to showcase some of the features that, and then expose you guys some of the features that you guys can work with. We'll go select face, select this face, and grab it in the X direction, and press nope, grab it X. Hold, I would like to move it back X. Basically, I'm just trying to halve it. Hold up. Okay. I'm trying to halve it so then we can mirror the other half. It's easier for us to work with that way. Let's see, around there. There we go. Now we halved it. I think I'm just a little messy way to do that, but it still works. Now we can go to this tool, add modifier, mirror. We have that. And now I would like to like elongate it. Grab and no, wrong axis. Oops, there we go. Y-axis. We can elongate it like this. Probably a little bit more. Again, wrong axis. The Y-axis. All right. Now we have like a long, like a spaceship kind of base. We can add, well, first I would like to change the front of it. So let's go to line mode, select this line, grab it, and should select the right axis yet again. No. Yeah, there we go. Select the y-axis, and now you have like a sharp front. And I would like to select this whole loop cut. I want to add a loop cut. So there we go. We have a loop cut now. The reason I wanted to add a loop cut is in here. I want to you need to select faces, and then I want to extrude it so I can create like a wing. So you can press, or no, inset faces. So I first used this option for loop cut and I added like compartmentalized what we have. And now I use the inset faces and then you just grab it and like push it in. And then you have like a face, like a smaller face to work with. And in here, I would use the E extrude region and extrude it X. No, I need it first. Yeah, there we go. And now it kind of like comes out like that. And then I want to create sort of wings, like kind of like some of the ones that we look at, like Star Wars. So perhaps inset another face right here, and then again extrude it. Alright, that's something. Then we can extrude it, we can inset over here as well. And then extrude. You guys can make it however it look like. I'm just showing these features that are available to you guys. Let's do something like that. It's a funky little spaceship. All right. So now let's go back to our whole thing is selected, and let's go to UV editing. Oh, okay. Only that selected, so let's select all of it. I hope the X-ray is on. No, it's not. Let's put that back. Select all of it. And then, right, there we go. So now you can kind of see how it's unwrapped or like wrapped and then we can go here UV unwrap smart UV project. There we go. So now once we unwrap it, we can kind of see the individual pieces, and like I showed before, we can go to smart UV project again, but island margin, increase that slightly, and then unwrap, and then you can see how it adds space between the main like individual pieces, and that can help you to place them, especially when working with the texture, like where to place it, um, work more precisely with each individual face. Right, so that shows you an example, few of the features that you can work with while modeling in edit mode. Now let's do Control N again. And finally, I would just like to showcase the texture paint um, option in Blender. So let's go ahead, X, delete like the usual, and Shift A, mesh, go to our good old UV sphere, and then we go to texture paint. And in here, ooh, it's starting out like I said before, the Magneta pink, whatever whatever color it is. And let's showcase some of the features in here. Let's go paint brush. Let's select a color. Why is it? There we go. You gotta turn this up. Let's pick blue or red for UNO. And oh, it's because I haven't. So this is something you need to add a. First thing is you need to go here and add a texture on it. So give me a second. Yes, you need to add the texture slot and a material, and that's why it was not showing up. So just there we go, like that. See, now you can see that. So now let's hopefully we can. All right. So let's draw like a smiley face or a snowman, and then like. All right. There you go. Add some hair to him. It's not great, but you know, it shows. And with this, what you can do is adjust the radius of it. So, like, now you can see my thing is big, then it covers all of that. And you can also change the strength. So, like how, you know, like how much. So look at that. It took a couple clicks for it to like completely get to the same, um, you know, darkness as it compared to when it was at like full strength. Ideally, you want to work with smaller radiuses, so it's you know you can it's more precise. And then here, then you have to go to UV editing, and then you can mess around with the vertices, lines, and faces, and perhaps the whole thing as well, where you know move the wrapping. And so how these two can work in tandem. I think this texture paint would definitely be useful for you guys' projects to add like color, like custom color to your models. And that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Bye bye from Smiley Face.